Hi there guys, thanks for tuning in once again. I'm Will Lord and I'm currently on one of my prehistoric road trips. I've been travelling around in Wiltshire to things like West Kennet Longbarrow, around Stonehenge area, and I'm now off to Cranbourne Chase. On this leg of the adventure, however, it's not just the land I'm interested in, it's a farmer who's been farming a piece of land his whole life, and through doing that he's come across quite a few interesting not only artefacts but features on the land which he now has as a sort of running museum. So we're going to go and meet him and see what's going on over there. So this morning I've found myself with this gentleman. This is Martin Green, and we've been friends for a long time, and Martin's made the effort to come and see me but I never made the effort to come and see him. And it's interesting, I knew that Martin had an exhibition of finds from across his land.
That's right.
And your family have been farming this land for
almost 100 years now. Yeah,
almost
that's right.
100 years.
Yeah.
You've grown up here.
I have. Yeah.
Been away a few times. Come back and
Really, I've lived almost all my life here. Really. Yeah, that's right. And I picked up my first flint as a boy and never looked back since, really.
Wow. So we're going to go and have a quick look inside Martin's museum, and I've already had a little look. I've done a little bit of research in here this morning, and it's very much a place that anybody that follows me is definitely going to want to have a look in. So walk this way.
To the Cabinet of Curiosities.
Well, Martin.
Yeah, results of a lifetime's involvement in archaeology. Some of it's from my own farm, but it's basically from about 4 parishes based around the farm here. I initially started field walking. That's where I found most of the flint tools, etc. And then I started my first excavation on the farm here when I was 21 in 1976. So it's the results of, as I say, a sort of lifetime involvement in archaeology, really.
That's an impressive array of flint artefacts.
Yeah, they're all locally found from right from the Mesolithic. We've got 1 or 2 pieces of Paleolithic material, but that's pretty damn rare. But lots of Mesolithic and Neolithic material, and early Bronze Age as well.
You really have got 10,000 years of history in here, haven't you?
Yeah, very much so.
And you wrote a book on this, didn't you?
I did, yeah, that's right, and that was part of the title, 10,000 Years on a Chalkland Farm. Yeah, and as I say, I started off field walking, but then I graduated to excavation, and just really things have developed as time's gone by, really. I mean, my initial dig was found, or the initial site was discovered when we had mains water put in 1976, because it was a year of the great drought. We had a pipe trench dug right across the farm, and at one point I spotted this prehistoric feature that it cut, and it turned out to be a Bronze Age ditch surrounding a settlement, and that's how I got involved in doing my own excavations. But in my teens I had been on a number of official excavations, so I learnt the basics of how to do excavation properly and scientifically and draw sections and all the rest of it, but I had no idea I was going to do my own excavations until that chance discovery.
Can people obtain that book anywhere?
Yeah, they can. Yeah, it should be available from the publishers, the History Press, and yeah, it's probably on Amazon as far as
okay. Now the thing is, we could keep everybody in here all day and beyond. I've already spent over an hour in here, but there's more to see, there's more to do, but I'm just going to take everyone through here right at the moment. Nowhere's quite the same without a good bottle bank, is it?
That's right. Yeah. I didn't drink them all. I'll put it down.
And then we get right into the nerve centre of what flint is all by its very self.
Yeah, it's the biggest flint nodule I've ever found around here as a sort of natural sculpture. And over here is what I call Flint Corner, with all the various fossils I found locally in Flint. Of course, the sea urchins are very common. That's one of the first things I started to find as a boy in the fields around here.
Yeah.
And then occasionally, as you know, when you're napping, you sometimes find something by chance. Like there's a lovely little starfish in that flint nodule over there, which I just broke because I wanted to test the quality of the flint, and it revealed that starfish.
That is incredible.
Mm. There's that photograph there is based on a very small area of this flint, and I like that because it's almost as though you're looking into a rock pool. You can imagine that as part of the sea.
Yeah, you can. So we haven't even gone onto the land itself yet. We've only arrived last night, slept in the education room, and we've come in here this morning. I feel right at home in here, so for now we're going to go out and we're going to have a look across the land. You're going to tell me you dug this all out by hand?
I did, yes, believe it or not. It showed up as an amazing crop mark in the grass in 1990, and I thought it must relate to the subsoil, so I did a quick trial dig and saw that there was a subsoil feature cut through the chalk, and then I decided to investigate it, but I didn't know quite what I was going to get involved in when I started here. You know, it turned into the original bottomless pit. Which is, of course, a potential hazard, hence the fence around it. Sometimes the floor plate will make a clang as you stand on it. It's a slight bulge.
Oh.
Yeah. And at this time of year, often there's quite a bit of water in here, as you can see.
Bloody hell, look at that.
Crystal clear water.
I wasn't expecting that.
No, I was thwarted in the end because I found the water table and was unable to go any deeper. But we took it down to 13 metres and we augured it for a further 11. So we were only just about halfway, but the long part of the filling sequence was in the top. So we got a great sequence of deposits from late Mesolithic down to a beaker. But it is a natural sinkhole. It was created by water released at the end of the last ice age, created a chamber within the chalk, and then over many thousands of years it eroded from underneath until it reached a point and the whole thing collapsed in the 5th millennium BC, in the late Mesolithic period.
Yeah.
And then it subsequently filled itself in by natural processes over a period in excess of about 2,500 years. So all the deposits that were accumulating here had remains in them, animal bones, snail shells, and evidence of human activity. And 2 of our radiocarbon dates came from roe deer skeletons, animals which are presumably just accidental pitfall victims. But in those same layers we also had artefactual materials, flint tools, and in the higher levels in Neolithic times we had pottery and animal bone and so forth. So I think this was regarded, after it collapsed, as a sacred place within the landscape from the late Mesolithic right through to the beginning of the Bronze Age.
So explain to me, if you will, what was the excitement for you like? What did that feel like?
Well, it was amazing. I mean, we didn't know what to expect, really. First of all, when we started excavating, we hit a layer of chalk, which I thought was the natural, and I thought that was only down about 15 centimetres, and I thought this is going to be a very quick dig. But shortly afterwards, I broke through that, which was just a layer of packed rubble, and it just went on and on until we reached a point when we found the water table and couldn't excavate any further. But it was, initially, I did think I'd found the first flint mine to be discovered in Dorset, because we had a sequence at the top from Beaker down to later Neolithic, and we even had a few sherds of early Neolithic pottery. So I thought, oh, this is a dead ringer for Grimes Graves or something like that. But then it became clear when we got Mesolithic material that it was a natural feature and not man-made.
And how do the locals get on with the whole idea of what you're doing here? Do they all do the similar sort of thing, or are you?
No, I suppose I am sort of unique. I mean, I have been involved in conservation schemes now on the farm for about 35 years, and some of my neighbours are embracing some of those schemes as well, and putting in more for wildlife, and so that. You know, we're sort of following suit to a degree. The archaeology is something very specific to me. Of course, all my neighbours have got archaeology on their land as well. Some are more interested in it than others, but you know, it is a very rich area. It's part of the sort of Wessex chalk downlands, really.
And you were just telling me a moment ago that you've actually got ravens that are now coming
to roost. That's right. Yeah, ravens nest here regularly now. And in this time of year, we've got overwintering short-eared owls. You know,
what a joy that must be.
It is. Yeah. You know, you do these things in the hope that things are going to come back, and when it happens, it's really top right-hand corner of the necktie.
Incredible.
Yeah, we're approaching my restoration of a Bronze Age pond barrow, which I excavated about 40 years ago now, and. I was drawn to the spot. When we used to be growing arable crops here, there was always a bit of a dark patch in this part of the field, and I had my suspicions that it was something of archaeological interest, so I was determined to investigate it, and it turned out to be this remarkable early Bronze Age pond barrow, a rare type of burial monument. And we found in this area which our excavation showed was the entrance to the site. There were a number of burials, some of which I'd marked here. You can see in the cement. There was a child about 4 to 6 years old over there, crouch burial, cremated there, C on it. And here, although they're not very visible today, it was a burial of 3 infants, as well as a cremation down there. So just within this entrance area, there are a number of burials. And then in the centre, we found 4 post holes. I now put 4 posts back in them. But that could have been something more elaborate, you know, could have been a sort of altar or something like that. And on the north side, we found 2 more human bones. And the 4 cardinal points by animal bones. This cow bones, so we had sheep bones. So they've gone through a lot of trouble to lay the site out. And it would have been like this as a sort of like a little arena where ceremonial activity takes place in climbing. And leading from the entrance, I found 3 very big post holes, of which there is still only 1 of my remaining posts left in. The other 2 have rotted away, but I'm due to, as soon as I can get a contractor, to put the new posts back in the post holes to mark them.
Where are we going to then, Martin?
Well, we're going to go to the cursus section just over here. The Dorset cursus is the largest of its kind in the country, and it consists of 2 parallel banks and ditches, which set about 100 metres apart and traverse for over 10 kilometres across this landscape. Very little of it to see today because it's more or less been ploughed flat. Occasionally it shows up as a crop mark or a soil mark in the fields at certain times of the year. You can see it goes into the double line, but other than that, it's largely been ploughed flat. They were a type of monument built during the middle of the Neolithic period, between about 5,000 and 5,500 years ago. And they formed these sort of long avenues. Exactly what was going on inside them, we don't really know. Sometimes they're associated with long barrows, the communal tombs of the first farmers, and they can be aligned on solstitial arrangements. Like the first phase of the Dorset cursus is aligned on the midwinter solstice. And if you're lucky enough to get a clear afternoon at the right spot on midwinter's day, you can watch the midwinter sun set directly behind that long barrow, which we can see on the skyline over there.
I'm struggling to get my head around 10 kilometre.
Yeah.
Sort of a processionary sort of
well, that's what
avenue.
I think people were doing. You know, obviously it's difficult to prove that, but what else were they doing in that kind of thing? Some cursus monuments do have settings inside of them. There are one or two post circles, timber circles have been found inside some cursus monuments, but they may not be absolutely contemporary with them. They could have been built a little bit later.
Does it, in some respects, make it just easier to travel across the landscape?
I don't think so, really. I mean, the environmental evidence suggests that the landscape was fairly open at this stage, and that there wasn't a huge amount of dense woodland. Obviously, there were patches of it here and there, but it was quite an open landscape. But I think when it was constructed, the two banks would be gleaming white chalk, so you'd see these for miles around. And of course, the long barrows were probably gleaming white as well. So
they're dead straight.
They're not dead straight. They do wiggle around a little bit, but largely, you know, they're parallel, and they cut through 3 river valleys which are only subject to seasonal flooding. So water is a very important element of the Dorset cursus.
So you know it's a ditch because you've got like an organic material dropping in.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, basically here we're on solid chalk, and all you've got is about a foot or 30 centimetres of topsoil, and then you're onto the solid white chalk. And wherever the soil goes deeper, you know, that's some sort of pit or perhaps a tree hole, or something's happened to lower the chalk in that area.
Yeah, it's very apparent, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you have a burial mound here, did you?
Yeah, this is a Bronze Age burial mound, which I've restored. When I excavated, there was no longer a mound here. It just showed up on an aerial photograph. It's what we call a ring ditch. So that's how I discovered it. And having just excavated a Bronze Age settlement just over 100 metres away, I thought, well, this is a good candidate for the cemetery for that settlement. And in its latest phase, that's what it proved to be.
And what did you find here?
Yeah, we found a number of burials. Nothing... no primary burial had survived. I think that had been played away. But we found 3 contracted burials here of a man, woman and child. And I recently had DNA analysis done, which shows that they were a family, that the child was the result of the union between the man and the woman. And we also found a number of cremation burials here, mostly badly plough damaged. So, as I say, in its latest phase, it was these were some of the individuals who'd lived in the settlement that I excavated just over there, and that settlement was the one that was discovered in the pipe trench way back in 1976. But
so as you can see, this is an interesting gentleman and on an interesting piece of land, and it's wonderful to have somebody who actually is interested in the preservation and the recording and has so much to offer the subject that we all find ourselves interested in. So thanks very much for showing me around, Martin.
Been a pleasure, Will.
Well, personally, I found that really interesting, and I hope you did too. The adventure doesn't end here. We're now going to travel on to some new sites, so make sure that you've got yourself tuned in so you can see my posts as and when they come up, and see what happens next. Cheers, guys.